by someone who was a witch and invited me to attend this little celebration in their coven. I went, and I happened across some very interesting people. I went to some nice ceremonies, very pretty, and I remember telling these people that they had this beautiful garb on and everything was very, quite nice and all that. But you don't really believe that there's gods sitting over the ceiling watching what's going on in here, right? Like I said, charming celebration. I just wasn't able to get fully into it. These people included a couple of people that were not neo-pagan witches. They considered themselves druids, very nice professional couple. And they somehow got targeted by this woman that was doing these seminars, who was giving these talks. I mean, this little Christian community had come out to her house and poured motor oil all over her front porch. Now, she was 9 months pregnant. She comes out, and there's motor oil poured all over her porch, and there's a 12-foot-long banner in her front yard that said, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." Now, worse than that is one of the high priest of the Forge Coven at that time, his son, 13 years old, walking to school wearing a pentacle. It was his birthday present from his father, is his pentacle. He was shot in the back and killed by another child, a classmate, who cited "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live" as his legal defense, expecting that the police were going to accept that excuse, or that the courts would. True stories.
Well, I was, before you mentioned that last aspect of that account, I was going to ask, when you talked about the oil and the banner and everything like that, did the police not do anything about it? But I mean, I find it absolutely extraordinary. Anyone
Now I want to clarify
anyone
something
who
else.
behaved like that in this country would be deemed to be clinically insane and locked up.
Well, you'd think so.
The police would take serious action against them, and I just can't believe that this sort of thing happens. And
I don't think you're correct, DPR.
But I mean, please God, tell me that defense did not stand up for 1 second.
No, it did not. But I think your situation is worse than you imagine it. I mean, because I don't know. I don't live in England, but I've watched a lot of Pat Condell's videos. I've watched a few other newsreels of Muslim uprisings and whatnot. I don't think your sanctuary is near as strong as you think it might be.
Neither do I. I think that I've often said, if you want to see what will happen in this country, look at America 10 years ago, and that's the state we're at. And in 10 years' time, we will be, if we're not careful, in a similar position. Can I just apologise, by the way? At this time of day, I get a really bright sunshine coming through the window, which I've brought the blind down, which I'm not trying to hide my face. It's just I can't see the computer screen if I went any higher. There are a number of creationist schools being set up. There is a creationist sort of a zoo fun park type thing being set up, which apparently has government funding, which has caused not enough uprising, so to speak, as it ought to. But these things are slipping in, and I think you're right. We've got to be careful about it. There's a government-funded school just south of where I used to live, up in Newcastle, in Gateshead, which Richard Dawkins has written letters to the papers and publicised and whatever, because it's getting government funding and it's teaching creationism. And this is all down to Tony Blair. Now, the fact that Tony Blair is religious, kept it hidden, I think is an act of utter lack of integrity, but leave that aside. It is slipping in slightly.
No, I want to clarify something else, DPR, because this is important too. I don't want people to think that I'm generalizing in this way, because I'm going back 20 years in the most extreme area to the most extreme people to find an example that I just brought up. Okay? Now, as I said, almost every house on this street is filled with believers. There is one house of rational people several doors down. Everybody else believes. There is only one or two that are scary about it. Now, in that case, my son, when he was age 10, something like that, he was walking down the sidewalk wearing a Harry Potter t-shirt. Now, the family that saw him, the kids that saw him, gave him hell about wearing a Harry Potter t-shirt because Harry Potter was of the devil, and then they start coming out and talking to him about this, and this woman said, well, aren't you afraid of going to hell? Or words to that effect. And he said he didn't believe in God. He was being honest. She asked him the question. He answered it. You know, don't you believe in God? He answered, and she treated it like a medical emergency. She ran into the house calling her husband's name, and he came running out as if there's a heart attack on the sidewalk. He comes out, and he's got a Bible in his hand. Now, this is the moment when I step out in the front yard because I want to know where my little boy is. I see my neighbor, skinhead neighbor, holding a Bible against my son's head, pounding it against his head, literally. And I knew what he was saying, even from that distance, even though I couldn't hear him. I start up, he sees me coming, he's in the house.
Shit, but...
My son, no, this is a scary guy. He's a good deal smaller than me, but if you see this guy, whoa, he's not one of these people you want to be near, you know, because he's, to be quite blunt, he's batshit crazy. So, you know, I asked him, I asked my son, what did he say when he had the Bible up against your head? And my son said, I rebuke thee, I rebuke thee, I rebuke thee. I rebuke Harry Potter with my magic book of spells. Now, they were not going to talk to me directly. They allowed me to speak to one of our neighbors who was able to speak to me and still speak to them. And this woman asked me, what problem did I have with this man holding the Bible against my son's head and all of this? And I said, well, I just find it remarkable that a grown man in the modern day would believe that a spell like that would work.
Of
course, these people...
If he in any way physically touched him, it's in this country that would constitute, at the very least, a common assault, a criminal offence.
Well, I don't know if he physically touched him. Does that work if you do it through a Bible? But see, then it got worse. Then it got worse because now I go back out a little while later, and my son is up in a tree, and the other kids are throwing rocks at him because he's an atheist. So now, once again, the reason I told you the story was to remind you that everybody on the street, everybody in this neighborhood, almost everybody I work with, they're all believers. Most of them are not whack jobs. They're just a few scary ones.
To a degree, I wanted to steer clear of religion in this program, but I think this is a sufficiently important issue to go into in a bit more depth. Your last comment was they are believers, but they're not whack jobs. Now, when you're brought up in
a society where everybody believes this, you know, you tend to adopt a little bit of that belief because everybody else has it. One of my best friends in high school, he and I used to hang together and go out all the time, and this was, you know, he and I, we're best buds. It's strange that we broke this far apart. He is now an ordained Southern Baptist minister and the administrator of a creationist fundamentalist school, a big one, in Fort Worth. He's making a lot of money indoctrinating children. And the school that he works in teaches that the Bible is the only source of truth in our world. Everything else is a lie. And I remember having a meeting with him in his office. We hadn't seen each other in some 15 years, and trying to have this discussion where I said, okay, well, all of the things that you're teaching, I can prove that they're wrong. But he wouldn't have anything to do with that. He says, the thing that you're not realizing is that, and this question he thought was going to burn in my head forever, he says, why does everyone believe it? it must be true because 2 billion people out there believe it. And unfortunately, there's a whole hell of a lot of people who think that that warrants credibility.
Well, I'm staggered. Does anyone in the? I'm very sorry. I really don't mean to be disrespectful. I am listening, but do you want to address the questions
Yes,
and
I
comments?
should. I
Because
should.
I've got somebody telling me that I've got a mega star coming on to co-host in a second, not a second, in an hour or so.
By the way, somebody.
And I need to sort that out. So if you wouldn't mind, as I say, I don't mean to be disrespectful to you, but I just need to sort out these messages because they're getting confusing.
Okay. I would like if when Hayden comes on, somebody tell her to watch the 6th FFOC because of course she's in the first 5 minutes of that. Okay, let me see what the yes.
Is she? What?
It in the
Doing
sixth
what?
in the sixth foundational falsehood of creationism, I showed how the media was misrepresenting evolution by showing the X-Men and of course the TV show Heroes.